In its most general sense, migration is ordinarily defined as the permanent or semi-permanent change of residence of an individual or group of people over a significant distance. Migration may be permanent or semi-permanent. Recently, geographers have been concerning themselves with the population dynamics and the problems associated with migration. Migration, together with fertility and mortality, is a fundamental element determining population growth and population structure in an area. It is, however, difficult to provide a scientific essential criterion for classification of migration. Migration, in fact, may be international, interregional, interurban, rural-urban or intra-urban. On the basis of time criteria, migration may be temporary or permanent. If we take into consideration the distance, the migration may be long or short. On the basis of number, migration may be individual or mass. It may be politically sponsored or voluntary. On the basis of social organization, migration may be that of family, clan or individual. On the basis of causes, migration may be economic, social, political or religious. Migration may be stepwise, that is village to urban hierarchy. After you have gone through this module, you would be able to understand the causes of migration and also understand the consequences of migration. Many a time, the differences between groups in levels of technology and economic opportunities also cause large scale migration. So, coming to first one, technology. People with more sophisticated technology may invade and conquer new areas. Contrary to this, less developed groups may be attracted to the greater opportunities provided by a more developed society. For example, ancient Romans conquered vast areas in Europe, North Africa and Southwest. During this period, many people migrated to Rome, which provided better economic and employment opportunities. During the medieval period, the Arabs were quite advanced in education and technology. With this, they conquered large territories in Central Asia, North Africa, Iberian Peninsula, that is Spain and Portugal, and eastern parts of Europe. In the 14th and 15th centuries, the Europeans had better navigation ships and they discovered America, Australia and numerous unknown islands of the Atlantic, Indian and Pacific Oceans. They colonized and exploited more populated territories of Asia and Africa. After the Industrial Revolution in 1779, the Europeans migrated to North America, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa and South America. The large scale immigration from European countries continued up to the first part of the 20th century, and the main reason was to colonize the underdeveloped countries and to exploit their resources. Coming to the second part, that is economic causes. One of the prime motives of immigration seems to be economic. Man's need to have virgin land to till has inspired him to migrate to distant areas. It was because of this reason that the slaves, mainly the African Negroes, were transported to the plantations in tropical America. These Negroes subsequently got settled in the USA, Latin America and the West Indies. Lust for virgin land also motivated the Europeans to immigrate to UK, Ireland, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Portugal, Holland, Belgium and Denmark, and to settle into the prairies of USA and Canada. In the 17th and 18th centuries, about 20 to 40 hectares of land was used to be given free of cost to the immigrants in USA, who owned nothing in their homeland. The temptation to have land became a great magnetic force for the Europeans to settle in America, Heavy pressure on the land resources in the motherland also forced the people to out-migrate and to settle in areas where economic benefits may be achieved. The pastoral people and nomads of Central Asia invaded the territories of sedentary people. The Mongols, Tatars and Kurds migrated in the medieval period and got settled in the fertile valleys of Fargana, Panjshir in Afghanistan, Volga, Armenia and Caucasus Mountains. Non-availability of proper jobs and unemployment are also the economic reasons which compel the youth to leave their home for the places, areas and regions and countries employment may be found. It was the main cause of the migration of the Scottish Irish in the 17th and 18th centuries after the decline of the woolen industry and the slump in linen in consequence of the rise of cotton textile industry in Britain. The invention of spinning machine and the establishment of large scale cotton factories made many of the weavers of the subcontinent of India, that is India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, unemployed. In 1930, the slump and economic depression resulted into an exodus of British workers to Canada and USA, in spite of efforts to stop them. The agricultural laborers, if unemployed, also leave their native places. In every age, the laborers emigrated to neighboring or distant fertile tracts. For example, in about 2000 BC, Abraham migrated from Ur, that is Mesopotamia, to Canaan. The Greeks migrated to Scythia, the Jews migrated to Nile Valley and Mesopotamia, and the Bihari, Odia and Rajasthani laborers migrated to West Indies and Southeast Asia. At present, laborers from Bihar, Uttar Pradesh and Rajasthan are migrating to Haryana, Punjab and Himachal Pradesh for better employment opportunities. Coming to the third aspect, that is overpopulation. An excess of population in an area in relation to resources and available technology is known as overpopulation. Overpopulation may exist at local, regional and national levels. At present, it is most frequently seen in underdeveloped rural areas where the overstripping of resources by population growth may be evident in undernourishment or underemployment. Throughout the human history, migration took place because of the overpopulation in a community or region. In such a case, immigration may affect all social classes. At present, overpopulation is the most important cause of immigration in the developing countries of Asia, Africa and Latin America. The people of these countries are immigrating to Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Canada, Greece, France, Germany, Australia and New Zealand. The immigrants include domestic servants, agricultural laborers, unskilled workers, technicians, engineers, doctors and academicians. Each year from India alone, about 3 lakh skilled and semi-skilled people out-migrate. Coming to a fourth one, that is the social and religious causes. The human desire to stay, work and enjoy life with the people of his ethnic, social and religious groups is also an important cause of migration. In every period of human history, social factors led to large scale immigration. In the Middle Ages, there was the immigration of Balkan people owing to their dominance of Muslim Turks. In the 20th century, there has been expulsion of Jews from Germany, Spain and Russia. There is large scale outmigration of Muslims from Bosnia and Serbia, that is erstwhile Yugoslavia. Muslims are moving out from Myanmar to Bangladesh. The feeling of insecurity has compelled many of the Kashmiri Pandits and Punjabi Hindus to outmigrate from Jammu and Kashmir and Punjab respectively, while the Muslims prefer to migrate from the Hindu dominated areas to Muslim localities and vice versa, irrespective of the social amenities. Many of the well-off Muslims are moving towards the Muslim slums localities in Delhi, Mumbai, Ahmedabad, Meerut, Allahabad, Agra, Kanpur, Lucknow, etc., because of social and religious persecution, and same is the case of Hindus as they are out migrating from the Muslim dominated areas to Hindu dominated areas. Coming to political causes, especially after the Second World War, is the political one. Political refugees are a worldwide phenomena today. One can list numerous examples of political migration. These included Turkish, Armenians and White Russians in the earlier 20th century, European Jews after the Second World War, Palestinians, Chinese, Hungarians, Cubans, Indians, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis, Kashmiris, Tamils, Vietnamese, Afghans, Iranians, Somalians, Kurds, Siberians, Bosnians, Kosovars and Albanians. All these are the examples of forced migration induced by political factors. Another form of involuntary migration is the expulsion or exchange of minorities by nations. For example, the Sudeten Germans repatriated from Czechoslovakia after the Second World War, and the Muslims and Hindus exchanged when India and Pakistan were created by the partition of the subcontinent in 1947. The forced and compulsory migration is always bound up with tragic highlights in human history. During the medieval period, Negroes used to be sold in the urban markets of Portugal, Spain, France and Italy. Coming to the demographic causes, a number of demographic factors also play a vital role in the migration pattern. For example, age has been recognized as one of the important demographic factors controlling the degree of desire to move among the potential migrants. It is not surprising that adults are more migratory than other age groups. It is the rate of growth of population that determines the extent of population pressure in an area. The great historic movement of the Europeans across the Atlantic Ocean was an expression of increasing pressure of population on the resource base of Europe. Similarly, in India, the large scale out-migration from the densely populated parts of Orissa, West Bengal, Kerala, Bihar and Uttar Pradesh is largely due to a poor population resource ratio in these areas. Now, talking about diffusion of information, the availability of information through education, cultural contacts and spatial interaction also increases the chances of population migration. The communities that are ruled by orthodoxy, conservatism, traditions, customs and strong communal ties are less mobile than those which are socially more awakened, progressive and have more contacts and exposure with the outside world. The information network and cultural contact increase the horizons of job opportunities. Thus, migration generates more migration, which signifies the role of information network in the stimulation of migration. In India, the Sikhs are the most adventurous and well informed people who migrate even to the less developed and less attractive areas like Bolivia, Colombia, Ecuador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Central African Republic, etc. So, coming to the general rise in the level of aspiration, with the advancement in science and technology, new items of comfort and luxury appear in the market and the level of aspiration of the educated and uneducated people goes up. Everybody is tempted to enjoy a better standard of living. In India and Pakistan as well as in all the developing countries, the young men who were better off than their fathers were nonetheless dissatisfied, and many sought to better themselves overseas. It is mainly because of these reasons that Indian engineers and doctors are emigrating to USA, Canada and in large number unskilled and semi-skilled labor is migrating towards Saudi Arabia and Gulf countries. Coming to wars, wars have been one of the important causes of human migration. Wars have always involved upheavals, particularly in the regions where these have been fought. The First World War during 1914 to 1919 AD involved the displacement of about 6 million people, and the Second World War between 1939 to 1945 AD involved the involuntary displacement of about 60 million people. Some people were forced to move to avoid political and religious persecution even long before the war. Millions were moved in the forced transference of ethnic minorities, millions more in evacuation and flight from the battlefronts. Forced labor movements and deportation accounted for several millions, and subsequent resettlement involved still further movement. Nearly a million Poles and Jewish were deported by Germany during the war, another million by Russia, who also moved a large numbers of Germans from the Volga to the far eastern parts of Siberia. The population of Europe was in constant flux during the vary from the Volga to Paris, and the end of the war led to the movement of refugees. All these migrations resulted into the changes of human resources in land use, customs, traditions and human values. After the Turco-Greek War of 1921, about 0.35 million Turks moved to Turkey from Greece, and about million Greeks went to their own country from Turkey. As stated above, transfer on a much greater scale followed the partition of India, where approximately 6 million Hindus left Pakistan and an equal number of Muslims left India for Pakistan, though large minorities remain in both countries. Now, coming to government policy, the government policy of a particular country also favorably or adversely affected the pattern of population migration. The British, French, German, Russian, American, New Zealand, Canadian and South African government have specific population policies, and most of them discourage immigrants. In early 50s, a large number of people moved out from the countryside to the urban areas as a result of collectivization of farms. Similarly, the political totalitarianism in Russia resulted in the migration of people from their homeland at the time of Bolshevik Revolution, also known as the Great October Revolution. By the process, the migration or the outgoing population influences the society, economy and environment both at the places of origin and destination. These effects may be favorable or harmful to the ecology, society and the economy. It has been rightly pointed out by some of the leading experts of population that each migrant by nature seeks to create something of the original milieu in the midst of the new environment, and consequently enriches the culture and civilization. The main consequences of migration have been briefly described in this section. The place of origin, the place of destination, the individuals and families of the migrants undergo a qualitative and quantitative change in their population and demographic structure. In general, people from the crowded and overpopulated regions outmigrate to the areas of scanty population with strong resource base. In other words, it leads to reallocation of human resources with a view to achieve a better balance between human resources and physical resources. Consequently, the population resource relationship of the two areas involved in the process of migration gets modified significantly as a result of the movement. The migration of people from one place to another brings a tangible transformation in the demographic characteristics. The absolute number of population, its density, growth, fertility, mortality, age, sex, literacy and occupational structure get transformed. At the place of immigration, an increase in the density of population brings more pressure on resources. The new arrivals may also enhance the capacity to exploit its resource potential, more significantly. This point may be explained by citing an example. Suppose X persons leave country A and migrate to country B. What change takes place in the size of the two populations? The common sense answer that the population of country A will decrease and that of country B will increase. This generalization is, however, true only in short run. If the typically young migrants have their children in their new country, its fertility rate may go up, while that of their native country goes down. Since the remaining population of country A will then be older on the average, its death rate may go up while that of country B goes down. In short, after one generation, the transfer of X persons will in fact amount to X plus a certain proportion based on the migration effects on the population structure and rates of population growth of the two, that is A and B countries. Thus, the population structure, sex composition and workforce of both the countries' regions will be substantially affected. While the resources, their utilization, society and economy are affected, the immigrants also face a lot of problems of adaptation. The people who migrate from the rural areas to the urban industrial areas suffer from the lack of open space, good housing and fresh air. The highly polluted atmosphere of the new place of work, mainly the urban centers, the toxic fumes and the dust affect their health adversely. They also have to adapt to the new dietary habits and timings of food. There are evidences to prove that the incidence of respiratory diseases, cardiac problems and cancer among the people who migrated from rural areas to the industrial towns is very high. Sometimes the physical contact of the people belonging to two different racial or ethnic backgrounds may change the biological characteristics of the people. Greater interaction between the people of Africa and that of Americans and Europeans have affected the racial characteristics of these people. Consequently, some of the diseases like AIDS, which were inoffensive formerly, have become now deadly. When large scale immigration takes place, as it happened during the 18th and 19th centuries in America, in which millions of people emigrated from European countries to the Anglo-American and Latin American, the cultural values of the two groups of people underwent substantial transformation. The immigrants bring with them their language, religion and cultural values. For example, the French and English in Canada, the Dutch and English in South Africa, the Indians, Pakistanis and Bangladeshis in Southwest Asian Arab countries and the Tamils and Sinhalese in Sri Lanka are confronted with such type of problems. As a matter of fact, the migrants not only try to preserve their religion, culture, language and customs, but also try to spread them. The people belonging to different religious groups whenever move and start living with the people professing other religious faiths, it may either mean a healthy spread of all religions in areas or may cause people of one religious faith to flee for fear of suppression and persecution by the others. The immigration of the Catholic, French and British Protestants in Canada and the multitude of Asian religions to UK are the examples where a healthy spread of different religious faiths has emerged. Migration is a geographical phenomena that seems to be a human necessity in every age. Since man has a tendency to leave the areas in which life is difficult, he migrates to the areas where life may be easy and better. The interaction of people of different ethnic and cultural backgrounds when stayed together lead to the enrichment of civilization. This may be said as the greatest benefit to human society from migration.